Has the curtain finally dropped? Are we finally watching the mask slip off in real time? Because what I am about to walk you through tonight is not a coincidence, it is not a fluke, and it is not random scheduling. You guys, what I am about to show you is a pattern. A loud, obvious, almost embarrassingly traceable pattern. And if you have been following this story for even 5 minutes, you already know exactly which two names I am about to put on this table. Remy Ma and Claressa Shields. Yes, again. And before anybody slides into my comments saying I am picking sides, hold up, let me stop you right there, because I am not picking anything. I am simply reading the receipts the internet keeps handing me. Play the clip in your head for a second. Remy Ma has a brand new Lifetime movie premiering tonight. Her second Lifetime feature. A real platform of a real promotional run of a real moment. And right on cue, like clockwork, like somebody set an alarm on a phone, here comes Claressa Shields suddenly resurfacing a movie from 2022 where she had a small cameo. Not the lead. Not the star. A cameo. Now y'all know me. I did my research before I sat down to record this. And what I found is so loud, so on the nose, that I genuinely had to laugh. Because at this point it stops looking like coincidence, and it starts looking like a strategy. Let me explain. Tonight on Lifetime, Remy Ma is front and center in a brand new film. The story leans into a mystery about the girl upstairs, and a lot of viewers are already calling the plot a life-imitating art situation, which only made the buzz louder. Remy Ma is not buried in the credits. Remy Ma is not playing the friend of the cousin. Remy Ma is one of the names this movie is being marketed around. And that is a real moment. That is a graduation moment. That is a moment that a peer should be sending flowers and a card and keeping their mouth politely closed. But what did we get instead? We got a repost. A repost from Claressa Shields promoting a 2022 film called Lola 2, where her own role, by the accounts of people who actually sat through the movie, is mostly training footage, prep scenes, and boxing-adjacent filler that pops up later in the runtime. Not the engine of the story. Not the heart of the story. A cameo. A supporting beat. And suddenly, on the exact day Remy Ma is doing her press run, that 2022 cameo becomes urgent again. Urgent. Right now. Tonight of all nights. Make it make sense. You guys, I'm going to be honest with you. When I first saw the post Claressa Shields shared, my first reaction was not even about the timing. My first reaction was about the wording. Because the post itself, the one she signal boosted from a so-called true fans group, had typos, mangled name spellings, and a tone that read more like a Facebook chain message than a film promo. And the comments were noticed. Oh, the comments were noticed quickly. People started clocking the spelling. People started clocking the casting names. People started clocking the fact that if you ran a quick search after seeing that post, you would walk away thinking Claressa Shields was the lead because her face was sitting front and center on the promotional graphic. But being on the poster is not the same as carrying the film. Being on the poster is marketing. Being the lead is screen time. And by every account online, Claressa Shields was not the lead. She was a feature. A flavor. A cameo with a jump rope. So why is this 2022 cameo suddenly being treated like it can premiere? Why now? Why tonight? Listen again, because the answer is staring everybody in the face. Now, y'all know I am a fair person. I genuinely try to give people the benefit of the doubt. So I asked myself, okay, maybe Claressa Shields is just proud of an old project. Maybe a fan group reposted it organically. Maybe the timing is a coincidence. But then I started lining up the dates, lining up the posts, lining up the press cycles, and you guys, I have to tell you, the pattern is exhausting. Because this is not the first time. Remember the conversation around the fire inside? Remember how that promotional push from Claressa Shields seemed to swell every time critics started talking about how the project was performing? People noticed back then. People are noticing again now. Whenever Remy Ma has a moment, suddenly Claressa Shields has a moment too. A repost, a throwback, a resurfaced clip, a screenshot, a comment, a like, a tag. Something. Always something. And the cycle is so reliable at this point that fan accounts have started predicting it. They drop the prediction before Claressa Shields even posts. And 9 times out of 10, they nail it. That is not a coincidence. That is choreography. Hold up. Let me pivot for a second, because I want to talk about the platforms, because this matters. The way Claressa Shields uses social media is not uniform. It is segmented. It is strategic. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. On X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, That is where the volume is loudest. That is where the reposts, the spicy quote tweets, the back and forths, the open dragging happens. That is the war room. On Instagram, the temperature drops, but the precision goes up. That is where the subtle captions live. The cryptic flower emoji. The unbothered selfie at exactly the right time. The vague quote graphic that nobody is referencing, but everybody knows is for somebody. On the live platforms, whether it is TikTok Live or anywhere else with a streaming feature, that is where the mask slips the fastest, because live is unfiltered. Life is reactive. Life is where people say things they cannot scrub. On Snapchat, you get the soft launch, the everyday vibe, the meal, the workout, the family clip. And then there is Facebook, where the hometown supporters, the longtime family followers, and the loyal cousins of cousins gather, and the energy shifts again into something more personal. Different platforms, different costumes, same person. And every platform, in its own way, has been used to circle back to one name. Take a wild guess whose? Yeah, exactly. Remy Ma. You guys, this is the part where I have to say what everybody has been thinking. Because we have all watched grown people online do this routine where they swing first, then act surprised when somebody swings back. We have all watched grown people online toss a rock, hide their hand, and then post a confused face emoji when somebody calls them out. That is the energy that has been following Claressa Shields around. Posts go up. Reactions hit. Then comes the wide-eyed Humi reply. And meanwhile, Remy Ma, who, let me remind you, has a movie premiering tonight, is just over there working. Hosting, booking, acting, showing up to press, sitting next to legends, co-hosting morning television. That right there is the contrast. And that contrast is exactly why the algorithm keeps feeding you this story. Now, let me give you a moment from yesterday that says everything. Remy Ma was co-hosting Good Day New York. Spike Lee, the legend himself, was a guest. And if you watched the segment, you saw something real. You saw the way Spike Lee lit up the second the conversation shifted to the Knicks. That man has been bleeding orange and blue for decades. And, honestly, Remy Ma could have run that entire conversation herself, because she is a New Yorker through and through, and the moment they pitched the idea of extending a championship parade all the way to Madison Square Garden, Spike Lee jumped in with that famous, no, 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 an entire chorus of now that the internet has been replaying in loop ever since. Now, why does this matter to the Claressa Shields conversation? Because look at what Remy Ma was doing. She was working. She was on a network morning show. She was sitting across from Spike Lee. She was promoting a Lifetime film. She was honoring Juneteenth. She was talking about Black Music Month. She was a New Yorker in New York during one of the most New York weeks of the year. And in the middle of all of that grown woman business, she did not have to mention anybody. She did not have to subtweet anybody. She did not have to resurface anybody's 2022 cameo. She just worked. And let that sink in. Hold up, because here is where I have to ask a question that I want you to actually sit with in the comments. If there is no concern about what Remy Ma is doing, why does every Remy Ma moment seem to coincide with a Claressa Shields moment? Because either the universe is playing the longest prank in entertainment history, or somebody is paying very, very close attention to a calendar. And I want you to be honest with yourself when you answer. Because the timeline does not lie. The receipts do not lie. The reposts do not lie. The screenshots do not lie. The pattern does not lie. And the pattern is screaming. Let me get even more specific. Remy Ma's new movie is premiering tonight. Press run all week. Interviews all week. Co-hosting duties all week. And on the exact stretch of days when she is finally getting flowers for the work, here comes a resurfaced 2022 cameo, packaged like a brand new release, signal boosted off a fan account with typos and odd phrasing, framed in such a way that a casual viewer might think Claressa Shields was the lead. That is not honoring an old project. That is rerouting traffic. That is hijacking a moment that does not belong to you. And whether anybody wants to admit it out loud or not, that is the play. That is what the internet is reacting to. That is why the fan accounts are clowning. That is why even neutral observers are squinting at the timeline like, wait, this again? Now let me say something about the broader pattern, because I am not just talking about this one repost. I am talking about a years-long behavioral fingerprint. Critics online have argued for a while now that Claressa Shields has borrowed style cues, branding cues, presentation cues, and image cues that overlap suspiciously with Remy Ma's blueprint. Fashion, yes. Hairstyle eras, yes. Entertainment branding, yes. And of course, supporters will tell you trends overlap, looks recycle, the culture is the culture. That is fair. But what is harder to explain away is the timing. Because trends being similar is one thing. But trends being similar and dropping on the exact same day as a press cycle is another thing entirely. Once is a coincidence. Twice is a pattern. 3 times, 4 times, 5 times? That is a strategy with a publicist's calendar in front of it. Y'all, I have to take a breath, because I have been keeping receipts on this story for a long time. And every time I think we have reached the ceiling of online absurdity, something else gets posted. Something else gets reposted. Something else gets resurfaced. And the cycle starts over. And the most frustrating part of all of it, honestly, is that Claressa Shields is genuinely accomplished. We can say that out loud. She has a real athletic resume. She has trophies and titles that nobody can take from her. So why is so much of her current public presence dedicated to circling somebody else's lane? Why is so much of her online energy dedicated to tracking Remy Ma's calendar? Why is the 2022 cameo more important to post about than the next training camp, the next fight, the next legitimate film opportunity? Because that, right there, is the question critics keep asking, and nobody on her side has a clean answer. Listen, before I keep going, let me show you what the contrast actually looks like in 2026. Remy Ma is in her second Lifetime movie. Remy Ma is co-hosting morning network television. Remy Ma is sitting next to Spike Lee. Remy Ma is being floated for a possible cameo in a brand new Fat Joe music video. Remy Ma is connected to her own growing media platform. Remy Ma is still recording, still performing, still booking, still expanding. Remy Ma pivoted away from drama, and the opportunities did exactly what opportunities do when you stop blocking your own door. They lined up. The love and hip-hop era, the battle rap era, the television era, the film era, the media platform era. That is a portfolio. That is a career arc. That is a woman building, while the internet keeps trying to drag her back into a fight she already walked away from. Meanwhile, on the other side of the story, what are critics pointing to? Reposts, resurfaced cameos, cryptic captions, platform by platform shade. Recycled drama from years past. Now, I am not saying any of that to be cruel. I am saying that to be accurate. Because if you are going to spend your social media currency on something, spend it on the next chapter. Spend it on what is coming. Spend it on the work, not the comparison. That is the whole point of evolution. Remy Ma evolved. The audience watched her evolve. The industry watched her evolve. And the more she evolved, the more visible she became. That is not luck. That is alignment. That is what happens when a person stops feeding the noise and starts feeding the work. Now I want to pull back the lens, because I want you to understand why I keep coming back to this story. It is not because I am obsessed. It is not because I have a personal stake. It is because this is one of the cleanest live case studies in modern entertainment of how attention warfare actually works. You have one person quietly stacking wins, and one person loudly competing with the wins. You have one person letting the work do the talking, and one person letting the timeline do the talking. You have one person who shows up to network television, sits next to Spike Lee, and goes home, and another person who refreshes her notifications waiting for the moment to drop a repost. And the public, the audience, the fans, the algorithms, the blogs, the gossip pages, the morning radio shows, the timeline, all of them are watching. And all of them are clocking it. Every single bit of it. Now let me get into something a lot of people online have been whispering about, but very few are saying out loud, which is the strange way Claressa Shields seems to track Remy Ma's wins in real time. And before anybody jumps in the comments accusing me of being dramatic, hold up, let me play this back for you the way I see it. Every major Remy Ma milestone in the last 12 months has been mirrored almost immediately by a Claressa Shields post, repost, screenshot, vague caption, or strategically timed throwback. That is not me speculating. That is me reading the timeline like a calendar. And when you stack the calendar against the receipts, you do not need a forensic analyst to see what is happening. You just need eyes. You just need to scroll. You just need to count the days between Remy Ma's announcements and the corresponding Claressa Shields reaction posts. It is honestly the most predictable rhythm in entertainment right now. Drop a press release for Remy Ma on Monday, and by Tuesday, Claressa Shields is reposting something old, something out of context, something designed to drag eyeballs away from the new moment and back to the recycled drama well. And y'all, here's the part that gets me. The recycled drama well is dry. It has been dry for a while. The audience knows it is dry. The blogs know it is dry. The fans on both sides know it is dry. But every time Remy Ma steps into a new spotlight, somebody on the other side of the story acts like the well still has water. It does not. The audience has moved on. The culture has moved on. Remy Ma has moved on. The only person who keeps lowering a bucket back into that well is Claressa Shields herself. And every time the bucket comes up empty, the response is the same. Post something else. Repost something else. Resurface something else. Confuse the timeline. Mess with the search results. I hope that one of those moves sticks. But nothing is sticking because the audience is paying attention, and the audience is smart, and the audience is keeping its own receipts. Let me also say this, because it is important. There is a version of this conversation where Claressa Shields could win her own narrative back overnight. All she would have to do is the unthinkable. Log off. Focus on her actual craft. Stack a real win on her side of the ledger. Drop a film where she is the lead, not the cameo. Win a marquee fight that the entire country has to talk about. Build a brand that does not require a Remy Ma adjacent comparison to stay visible. That is the path. That has always been the path. But the path requires silence in the meantime, and silence is the one thing Claressa Shields does not seem willing to offer the timeline. So instead, we get reposts. Instead, we get the 2022 cameo Hail Mary. Instead, we get the platform-by-platform mood board of subtle shade. And the audience just sits there, popcorn in hand, watching the same loop play out on a different Tuesday with a different excuse. Hold up, let me say one more thing about the 2022 movie Repost, because the specifics matter. Lola 2 came out years ago. Years. If the goal was a sincere throwback, fine. We all post throwbacks. But a sincere throwback does not arrive on the exact day a peer is premiering a current Lifetime feature. A sincere throwback does not get framed in a way that confuses casual viewers about who the lead actually is. A sincere throwback does not come stapled to a fan account caption full of typos and rushed energy. A sincere throwback does not need to compete. It just exists. The fact that this throwback needed to compete tells you everything you need to know about the intention behind it. And now I want to say something to the critics who keep arguing that fans are reading too far into ordinary social media activity. I hear you. I respect that perspective. There is a version of this story where every move is innocent, every post is harmless, every repost is just a Tuesday afternoon. But that version of the story requires you to ignore the calendar. And once you start ignoring the calendar, you are not analyzing anymore. You are excusing. There is a difference. And the audience is sharp enough to feel the difference, which is exactly why this story keeps trending every time Remy Ma so much as sneezes. And while we are on the subject of specifics, let me give you another data point that has been quietly making the rounds. There has been talk for a while now that whenever a Remy Ma project gets even a sliver of mainstream press, Claressa Shields suddenly remembers an old endorsement, an old appearance, an old quote, an old anything, and pushes it forward as if it just dropped today. People have started screenshotting these moments side by side. Left side, the Remy Ma headline of the week. Right side, the Claressa Shields throwback resurfacing on the exact same day. Side by side. Day for day. Headline for headline. And the more those side-by-sides circulate, the harder the timing becomes to explain. You can call it coincidence one time. You can call it coincidence 2 times. By the 7th and 8th side-by-side, even the most generous viewer is going to start raising an eyebrow. And that is exactly where the broader audience is right now. Eyebrows up. Receipts out. Comments locked and loaded. Y'all want my honest verdict? Here it is. Remy Ma is in her grown woman era, and that era is not slowing down. The Lifetime film tonight is one chapter. The morning television seat is another chapter. The Fat Joe video conversation is another chapter. The media platform expansion is another chapter. The performance bookings, the press, the visibility, the legacy maintenance, all of it is another chapter. And every chapter she writes, somebody else seems to write a reaction caption underneath it. That is the dynamic. That is the pattern. And the more Remy Ma builds, the louder the pattern is going to get. So buckle up, because tonight, when that Lifetime movie hits screens, this conversation is only going to grow. So let me leave you with this. Watch the movie. Form your own opinion. Read the room. Read the timing. Read the receipts. And then ask yourself, with your whole chest, why does every Remy Ma moment seem to invite a perfectly timed Claressa Shields moment? Because once you answer that question honestly, the rest of the story is going to make a lot more sense than it probably should. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, do me a favor. Smash the like, hit that subscribe, and drop a comment below telling me where you stand. Are you watching the Lifetime film tonight? Do you think the 2022 repost was harmless, or do you think the timing speaks for itself? Be honest. Be loud. Be specific. I read every comment, and I want to know what y'all are seeing from your side of the timeline. Anyway, y'all, that is my breakdown for tonight. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.